This account depicts ordinary people caught up in an extraordinary swirl of savagery, who did not see themselves as saints or heroes at the time, yet showed rare courage and moral restraint. They reacted in a moment of deep crisis with grace and compassion, with empathy for shared humanity with an enemy or the innocent. The goal is to recognize anyone who refused immoral or illegal orders, even at grave personal risk, who would not pull the trigger to kill a hapless enemy, who bound wounds, assisted the other side's medics, protected prisoners, shielded civilians. This book presents stories of those who, in the midst of violent depravity, saw a way back to shared humanity, who resisted conformity and summoned mercy, if only in a gesture of kindness to a suffering or dying enemy that had no larger consequence. Uninterested in saints, it looks to map a more modest, achievable, and relatable lesson taken from the annals of humanity in war. It begins an accountancy of that mysterious, elegant, and deeply compelling virtue we call mercy. The misery that greets humanity in each new war is orders of magnitude beyond the suffering of all but the most arduous of impoverished lives. For the most part, anguish is inflicted and is suffered by ordinary men and women. The focus of this account is therefore everyday soldiers, sailors, pilots, nurses, and medics who retained a humane perspective inside the moral fog of war. It takes no regard of nation or uniform. It disdains the false moral claims of commonplace nationalism and related military chauvinism. It gathers tales of any person in any uniform who showed mercy while all around them was extreme violence, and often a promise of state absolution should they commit willful war crimes. It is about those who did an uncommon thing, at high risk to their own lives. It searches for clues about why they acted as they did, asking if they had innate integrity while others nearby acted so differently. Was their virtue individual, or did honor codes and officer accountability help stay the hand of cruelty? Is the ideal of mercy in war respected mainly in the breach? Is it all mostly myth? Saladin the Merciful? Chivalry as a warrior ideal in the medieval West? Ideas of the just war that rode alongside crusade and jihad? Aristocratic notions of the honor of elites and officers? Bushido in 20th century Japan, fabricated by the Meiji state to bind its new model army to itself and the nation. Traditional military history framed a secular hagiography of warriors in stained glass windows, calling for us to stare upward and admire them. Like cathedral images of dead saints of the old religions, the effect, if not the intention, is to distort memory into legend, deflect examination of harder facts, and substitute triumph for truth. We celebrate flawed generals like Caesar, or Arminius, Henry V, or Tokugawa Ieyasu, Michel Ney or Robert E. Lee, Georgy Zhukov, or Von Win Gyap. Such grand heroes too often provide a facade for lies to manipulate the young and public opinion. They disguise political and cultural myth-making, and too often terrible crimes. Mercy is a truer mark of heroic character in war. It appears in almost every war. We see it in compassionate soldiers, serving in nearly every army, even the most vile. We see it in Germans and French facing off across a pock-marked no-man's land, not shooting at enemy work parties or mortaring latrines or attacking during breakfast. Also in a Medal of Honor winner who killed hundreds of Germans in 1918, yet turned his gun on his own company to save a helpless German boy soldier whom they intended to murder. Mercy animated a young lieutenant wearing Nazi Germany's Feldgrau in Hürtgen Forest in 1944, who died while trying to rescue a wounded American lying beyond the hearing of his own medics. An older Ukrainian tanker chose not to pull the trigger on his counterpart scrambling to flee a damaged Russian tank in 2015, then posted on Facebook a call to his enemy's mother, pleading for her son to leave the war. We find mercy in medics who move from undercover to reach the wounded, nurses who brave front lines or work themselves to physical and moral